Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I've got something really special, and I think the timing is pretty well right too, because if you want to get one of these, I've actually kind of pushed this video ahead because I saw some signs on Instagram that I think these may be available again. This is the Monterey Bay Knives XLC, and I've got to say, I think this is one of the coolest knives of 2020. It will absolutely be on my top 10 for the year. It's very impressive. Now, part of that, guys, I will admit, is my love for Ray Laconico. I follow him on Instagram. I think you should too. His designs are always just so clean and so gorgeous. I just everything, every single thing he posts, I'm like, wow, that is so amazing. Not only that, but his collaborations, the Master of Keen is phenomenal. Probably the single best collaboration that Master did. That is truly special. It's just a fantastic knife. He's got some collaborations with Kaiser. He's got some collaborations with a few other companies, and then Monterey Bay Knives is sort of, I think he's doing it. It's primarily his own thing, but I think he may have a couple of partners involved in that as well. Now, in terms of who's making them, they use a number of OEMs, so they kind of collaborate and put stuff together. And this is pretty impressive. I would have said before that it was primarily, most of the work for them was being done by Kaiser. This is a bit of a departure. There's some other stuff going on here, so I really can't say with confidence who is involved in the manufacture of this. And they're keeping it fairly close to the chest, so there's not a lot out there. They've specifically said, look, we don't use the same vendors all the time. We kind of deal with various people to get the best thing for what we're trying to do in that particular model. And you know what? I can't complain about that. If that's the way they're doing it, then what are you going to do? So all we can look at is the final product. And I've got to say the final product is pretty darn impressive. Now, look, I've reviewed a couple of years ago, maybe only a year ago. I don't know how long exactly, but at some point in the past, I did review the EZC. Not my favorite knife ever, primarily because it was just too small for me. This, however, fixes the primary issue I had with the EZC and makes it what I would consider a full-size knife. So for me, the magic number is 8 inches. Anything around 8 inches is a full-size folder. If it gets down to 7 inches, then it's on the small side. And if you get up above 9 inches or so, then it's big. But just a general EDC size knife, I think 8 inches is pretty well a magic number. The Para 2 is like 8 1/4, and you could maybe that would be a better middle point. I'm not sure. However, this does come in at what I would consider full size for an EDC style knife. And that's also what I would consider this. I wouldn't call this, a tactical knife or a food prep knife or anything else. I would call this pretty solidly an EDC knife. So let's go ahead and get the specs out of the way first. So size and weight on this, 8 3/8 overall. So as I said, it's not massive, right? Like, we've had lots of knives on the channel that are 9 inches, that are 10 inches, that are really big. 8 3/8 is pretty middle of the road. 3 11/16 on the blade. So that's fairly big. That's, a bit over 3 5/8, not quite 3 3/4. The handle on this guy is going to be 4 11/16, so same idea, not quite 4 3/4, but still, a fairly compact size for what you're getting, and a blade to handle ratio that I've got to say is pretty impressive. All right, 3 15/16 on the grip area, so that's right in here, and that's just a hair under 4 inches. Okay, so you may as well call it 4 inches. This guy is also nice and thin in this dimension. Check that out. Very slim, which means it carries in pocket quite nicely. So it's under 1/2 inch thick, around 7/16. I feel like every single measurement I've given you has been a 1/16 of something. So sorry about that. And finally, the overall weight here is 4.1 ounces. And so to have a knife of this size and this construction, a titanium frame lock, and at that, an integral titanium frame lock, which definitely involves more material, generally speaking, to get it at 4 ounces at 8 and a little over 8 1/4 inches, that's pretty impressive. So I have no complaints. In fact, I think size and weight on this knife are pretty well perfect. All right, I guess you could, if you're a big fan of ZT and you really want, a 0300 or something like that, you may want something a little bigger and heftier. But for EDC style tasks, I think this is really, really nice and very easy on the pocket. It just, you can carry this around and not even know you have it. So I think that's a real win as well, because it's actually delivering a fairly substantial knife in that rather small package. All right, let's now move over to the blade. There are all kinds of favorite features. The blade is absolutely a favorite feature of mine. Beautiful high satin finish. I'm trying not to get this to reflect too much, but it's almost a mirror polish. It's not quite a mirror polish, but very, very close. M390 steel, great, great thin edge here, almost a full flat grind. I kind of love the way this swells in the middle. Beautiful, beautifully done. I think I already mentioned, very thin edge. And look at that nice deep finger choil there. So exactly what it should be. The blade here is a huge win. I, I hesitate to even say it because I don't want to come off as negative. I really, really love it. I would like to have seen this just a little bit thicker. I know you guys are going to beat me up over that probably, but I would have been happy if this knife was half an inch thick. Do everything else exactly the same, just give me a little more blade here. The fact that they didn't is not something I'm going to take points away from. I just tend to like slightly more substantial blade stock. But when it comes to performance, this thing is like a lightsaber. It's so thin and so thinly ground that it just slices like crazy. So huge win for anyone who likes to cut stuff with their knife. I know that's not all of us, but really, really great, guys. Fantastic blade. Nothing at all that I can possibly think of to complain about. When we move over to the action, again, it's extremely well done. The detent is quite stiff, which I rather enjoy. Now, you don't want to get your fingers on this lock bar or things are going to get difficult. Let me see if I can do sort of worst case scenario for you. I got it, but that became a little uncomfortable on my fingers when I really put a little bit of pressure on that lock bar. Keep your fingers off there and you're not going to have any problems. The detent is nice and stiff. The lock bar is accessible. It's very, very fast. Now, it's not super drop shut. It'll drop shut, as you can see, but because this is a fairly lightweight blade, it's not quite as, it's not going to drop like a Benchmade Contigo or something with a bigger, heavier blade on it. I have to say, a couple of quick comments about the pivot. It is a bearing pivot, and I love the way that they've done this. Okay, so we've got a lock bar insert, but internally here, they've got a couple of washers. So both sides are recessed, and the way they've done this is they recessed into the blade to accommodate the ceramic bearings, and then they recessed into the handle to accommodate sort of bearing races. Okay, so really, really nicely done pivot, and I have to give them a lot of credit for getting that right. Really, really nice work. I love the way that they've built this pivot. If you want to see, I didn't bother to do a full takedown just because it's not really my thing. So you can go and watch Nick's video. He does take this apart and you can see exactly what I'm talking about if you're curious about that. All right, but very, very well done. And I have to say, this makes me want to pause here for just a second and say, why can't Spyderco figure this out? All right, I don't want to get back on this, but someone brought it up to me not that long ago. The Spyderco Paisan was a huge disappointment, and there were a couple little things that they got that they just missed. All right, one of them was you don't put ceramic on titanium. You just don't do that because it sucks. Because the ceramic's going to wear it out. Okay, so this knife, for $300. Gets it right when the 500 and some odd dollar Spyderco can't. All right, that's pretty frustrating to me. The other thing this gets right, of course, and in integrals, this can be a bit of an issue. So the detent is fantastic. They nailed the detent on this. They nailed the lock bar tension on this. And so again, these things have to be right in expensive knives. And when they're not, if you can't do it, just don't make them. Right, that's okay. So let me get back to the point of this video. All right, sorry about the sort of side rabbit trail there, but I just had to make that comment because this knife does almost everything right for $300. And that's really, really impressive. And now I'm totally into another part of the video talking about value. So we're going to hold off on that and come back to the handle. So handle itself, of course, the big thing here is that this is an integral. So all of this is one solid piece of titanium that's all milled to be this way. That's pretty cool. Obviously, the clip is not part of the blade, part of the single piece. It is a single position clip. All right, but it does work really, really well. I've carried this quite a bit, and this clip does exactly what you want it to do. No issues whatsoever there. The one point I will make about this, and this is, I don't know what to say about this, guys. So you'll notice that there's no stop pin that you can see. The stop pin is actually right there. Hold on, there we go. So there's the stop pin. It's actually milled as part of the handle. Now, I've been using this for quite a while, and there's a little bit of a mark that you can see there. Now, I needed to clean this up before, but you know, it's pretty insignificant. However, do I worry that over time, especially if you're one of those people that just obsessively flips your knife over and over and over again for thousands of repetitions, that could wear and cause some issues with, you know, so as that wears, right, then the blade is going to move this way upon lockup, and you're going to get later and later lockup. So do I like that particular choice? I've got to say I don't like the choice. Do I think it's going to be a problem? And am I super, super concerned about it? No. All right. So I don't know what else to say there. I did have that specific question. So whoever asked, I've got to say good on you for catching that. I had that thought as well. And all I'm going to do is say it's not my favorite thing, but I'm not going to take points away. I will also add that it adds a little bit of, you know, engineering ingenuity to the design. I think that's the first time that I've seen an integral with an integral stop pin. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm not sure if it's my favorite choice. Instead, in terms of design and feel in hand, this is not the most comfortable knife in hand. It's just very simple. The edges are a little bit squared off. We've got that nice milled line in there with the bead blasted sides. Now, I will say the whole back here is satin, and I'm not sure what the story is with that. You know, when I think about what could account for that choice, perhaps it was a matter of protecting internals. So maybe they wrapped this in a piece of tape or wrapped it in something when they did the bead blasting and then took it off. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, I don't really think it detracts from the blade. 'Cause, you know, just watch, guys, as I go through this slowly. All right, the knife looks still pretty coherent. It looks like the design theme kind of flows. So uh, I really can't say anything bad about it. And I will say something good about it. The bead blasting definitely adds a nice bit of texturing that is needed when you start doing some work with this knife. So that I will point out is I do like the bead blasting from the perspective of giving me some grip, something to kind of hold on to on the knife. That's really nice. Otherwise, yeah, you know, the ergonomics are pretty comfortable. It's not a knife that I think is the best thing ever, but it's certainly not a problem. So I think that pretty well covers everything. Oh, I didn't mention the lanyard hole. Big lanyard hole for those of you who like that. I mean, I'm not a lanyard guy. I like to, if I do get a knife with lanyard on, I just take it off. I'm not a big fan of them, but if you're a guy who puts a lanyard on everything, then you'll appreciate having the lanyard hole there. Okay, let's get to some comparisons. I've got to say, guys, this knife holds up really, really well to comparisons. When you consider the price point at $300 and that it's an integral with the features and materials you're getting, I think it's pretty stinking impressive. Let's grab a couple of other, you know, overseas produced knives here. So here we have the WE 037, sort of similar in the fact that it's slim and fairly lightweight and easy in pocket. The other knife that I've got that kind of reminds me of this knife in terms of just, you know, being a slim, long, lots of blade, fairly slim package would be the Kaiser Odin. So there's all three of them. The Kaiser Odin, I think, comes in for about 180. The WE here comes in around 220 something. Can't remember exact prices, but maybe it's 230 or 220 or I don't know. Between $200 and $250 anyway. And then finally, the XLC comes in at $300. And I've got to say, when I just look at the three of these, okay, in terms of innovation and visual interest and overall beauty of design, I think the XLC really, really stands out. This is a beautiful, beautiful knife. Not that I dislike these in any way, but we've got an integral, we've got this beautiful Laconico design. I'm just really, really impressed. All right, there are some impressive features on these as well. We'll talk about those in a different video, but well, actually, let me just say, I do like the fact that this is as slim and lightweight as it is, and I also love the innovative construction on this and the indented clip. I think those are all huge wins. And for Kaiser, I've got to say, I'm a huge fan of the carbon fiber. Let's grab a couple of other knives. So when we're talking about titanium frame locks, it's hard not to at least consider what ZT is doing. So here's the 0470, great little knife, Sinkovich design. Price point, you know, is going to be a bit less, of course, but worth throwing it in there. We've got a Riot. So this guy, these days, I think you can probably get these for around the same price. I think brand new, you can probably find this for around $325. On the secondary market, around $250. I will say this, the action on this is just a little bit nicer, all right? And, you know, it's not like this earth-shattering thing, but it is, you can definitely notice a bit of a difference there. Finally, one of my favorite knives in terms of overseas production is going to be the WE Knives Malice. This, of course, is the flamed TI, Ferrum Forged design. Really, really nice knife. Big, hefty knife, by the way. Weighs quite a bit more than this one. And again, you're going to be paying, you might pay a little less for the Malice than this guy, but of course it's not integral. Hold on. Let me get those fingerprints off of there, at least get rid of them a little bit. Okay, so what are my overall thoughts on this knife? I think it's a fantastic knife. I love the design. I love the construction. I love the blade. I love the feel in hand. Everything about this knife is done right. That only little question I had was in terms of that milled stop pin, which is an interesting choice. And I'm not really going to take points away. It's going to be very strong. I mean, think about the idea of milling that out of one solid billet. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So I've got I'm sort of on the fence about that one. I really like the idea. I'm not sure if I like titanium on steel for repeated deployments like that. All right. So yeah, overall, great knife, guys. Great value. I know it's expensive, $300, but for what you're getting, I don't think there's anything even close out there. I don't think there are any knives that are at the same or even a similar price point with the same features and the same construction. This is a pretty big win. So highly, highly recommended. And if you want one of these, follow Monterey Bay Knives on Instagram, because I do think, I'm sure actually in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed something saying, hey, there's more coming. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.